I just finished shooting a video that I started out by saying it had been surprisingly quiet on the news and transfer portal front. Then I checked the news again. It's not quiet. It's not good. Whew. So we'll get to transfer portal, coaching staff, and a few other things here in just a moment. First, I got to say, this is WVU football going deep for fans who like to think as well as cheer. I am Forrest Poston, and I am a bit more depressed than I was a few minutes ago. Anyway, I hope, despite the negative quality of some of this video, I hope you will subscribe. I'm spitting distance from the 500 mark. Please share, make comments, and click the thumbs up and the semi-useless notification bell. Remember to check your recommended videos anyway, just in case. The news, transfer portal news. Start with the biggest. Hudson Clement is going into the portal. Now, I don't know if that's really unexpected or not. I mean, I expected receivers to enter the portal because, Rodriguez does run as much or slightly more than what we've done the last, actually he runs more than we have the last few years, even though it's been a run-heavy offense. So Clement may have seen opportunities winding down and wanted more. Now, one of the few things we could say was we weren't really losing, West Virginia natives. And, Hudson Clement has got to be considered a favorite native son. And on the other hand, there have always been naysayers about Clement. There have been people who keep saying he's not fast, which is just bullcrap. Hudson Clement is fast. Hudson Clement gets open. Hudson Clement caught a whole bunch of deep passes in the bowl game. So don't tell me he's not fast. Don't tell me he's not a good receiver. He is. And he works his butt off, started as a walk-on, and became the #1 receiver. To the degree there is a #1 on the team. So that one hurts in terms of talent. That one hurts, well, I guess morale in some respects. You just don't like to lose a player like that. And again, don't know why. I mean, is he leaving for, more catch opportunities? Could be more money. I don't think he'll get a great deal more money. I don't think that's why he's leaving. I don't think he's that oriented. Or is it just that he does not feel a connection with the incoming coaching philosophy? We'll never really know. I do wish him a great deal of success and may watch whatever team he goes to. Also entering the portal this morning, Obena Onwuka, redshirted this year, but really expected to be a major factor as on the edge, bandit, something like that, spur. And of course, there probably will be a similar position in the Rodriguez defense, regardless of who he hires. And it's a position, we're losing, the guys who played that spot this year. Onwuka would have been in line for winning the starting spot. It hurts. It hurts. There will be guys in the portal. There will be guys in the incoming class. But We're not going to have anybody who has been here. I don't like that loss. I mean, he came in highly regarded. He recruited for the team. I mean, he was really all in, and that's probably part of why he's leaving. I think the very specific type of culture that Coach Brown had, worked to create was exactly what he wanted. I mentioned in another video, the bonding that happens on a Rich Rodriguez team seems to be more brother in arms, bonding through the struggle, which is, that's a special bond. That is a very, it was more the offensive lineman who talked about that, but it's a limited bond. And it's not what some of these players were looking for. They were looking for family bond isn't exactly the right term, but it's as close as I can think of right now. And it's going to be a different bond. I want to make this distinction. Under Dana Holgorsen, I think any bonding was minimal and accidental. Holgorsen, he said, he did not believe in the rah-rah stuff, and I think he would consider bonding to be part of that. I don't think he believes that bonding among the players helps. It does. Bonding can win games, whether it is brothers in arms or a non-blood family kinship. It brings something extra out in players. So if we're kind of looking at, non-bond, comrade in arms bond, family bond. Of those, non-bonding is the worst. It is the worst. Bonding, strictly through your practice and on-field, struggles, it can be a strong bond. It can be a useful bond. I prefer a broader bond. Doesn't necessarily mean stronger, but different. That's one of the. That's why Rodriguez is not my preferred coach, because I think there's a limitation there, but still significantly better than Holgorsen, which also means we'll see fewer ups and downs than we did with Holgorsen. But this also means, it kind of looked like maybe the portal, exits were done. This suggests they're not. So we're back to waiting to see. I don't want to say, waiting for the other shoe to drop, because I don't know how many shoes we've got, man. We've already had things dropping right and left. Now, anyway, that's the portal news. On a somewhat more upbeat thing, Rich Rodriguez was on Talkline this morning. I do suggest you listen to it. He didn't say anything earth-shattering, but it's still an interesting listen. Brought a few things up that'll be of interest. What really kind of stood out to me was when he mentioned, he'd been west, he'd been south. I go, wait a minute. Rodriguez started out he played in West Virginia. He's coached in West Virginia. He really, a coach travels, but he hadn't spent extended time living outside of West Virginia. I don't know how many of you have or haven't, but I can tell you it makes a difference in how you see and how you feel about West Virginia. Yeah, I spent way too much time in Ohio, and I spent way too much time out here in the flatlands of southwestern Indiana. and I spent time out in Eugene, Oregon. And they're all different. None of them is West Virginia. So I do believe that Rodriguez sees West Virginia differently. And, when he says appreciate it more, I think he does. I believe he does. When he says he loves West Virginia, I believe it completely. Now, let's step from that to Blaine Stewart. Blaine Stewart's another West Virginian, and he will be on the staff. It's been announced, Rodriguez, as expected, got rid of almost the entire coaching staff, and that's typical. I mean, coaches rarely want somebody around from the previous staff, partly because they want their own people, and even under the best of circumstances, having somebody from the previous staff can cause friction. Unintentional or not, it can still cause some difficult times. But he kept Blaine Stewart. Now, is it partly because Blaine is Bill Stewart's son? Probably. Is it partly because he's from West Virginia? Probably. Also, probably because he has connections with the Steelers. And it has to be mainly because he's a good coach. We don't really get to see a tight ends coach working. We don't, but I'm going to believe he's a good coach, and that's the main reason he's being kept. I'm glad. I was hoping that that Rodriguez would keep him. I'm sure a lot of other people were hoping the same. Whether he'll be tight ends coach, something else, we don't know yet. Rodriguez is also keeping Mike Joseph, which I consider a very good thing. There are fans out there who are down on Joseph. They claim he makes the West Virginia players soft. They don't know squat. These people are probably sitting in their recliner shouting for another beer and talking about Joseph making players soft. Let's say that's how I picture them anyway. Joseph uses a broad variety of approaches that include the most up-to-date and include technology. And I think that's kind of what gets some of these people. Some of them are shouting for free weights, and free weights do work the muscles differently, no doubt about that. But differently is not always better. Mike Joseph is dang good at his job, and every coach for quite a while has kept him. That tells you something. That tells you a lot. All right. Now, Rodriguez is obviously working the transfer portal. He's trying to get some players to come in here in the next couple of days before we go to a dead period. That dead period lasts till early January. And he's going to need some players. He's, and of course, trying to pick the right players. And he says he will have most of the coaching staff in place by Christmas, which means he pretty well knows who it's going to be. I don't think he, could start from scratch and talking with people and get it done by Christmas. So he says he hasn't talked a lot to Jacksonville State players or coaches because they have a bowl game today. But I think that means some people will be coming from there. Which ones? Don't know. Of course, Rick Trickett gets talked about a lot. I've seen stories that say the decision is Trickett's, so, which means Rodriguez will take him if he wants to come. Trickett is not young, still vital, and evidently enjoys coaching. But whether or not he wants to make another move at this point, and whether or not he would rather stay in the South rather than deal with West Virginia winters, don't know. We'll see. he's one I find interesting. He has talked to Jeff Castile, but he's been in conversation with Castile pretty much the whole time. Of course, Castile coached for him for a stretch after West Virginia. Castile's son has coached for him, and he had Castile down Jacksonville State to do some consulting work. I don't know that he would come out of retirement to be a full-time coach, but they might use him for some, consulting at West Virginia, which he also did a bit with Coach Brown. Let's see. I think that's about all I'm going to cover in this video. I know it's been scattered because the recruiting news threw me off. But I'm going to put a link in for the Talkline. Rodriguez is right up at the beginning, so you don't have to wade through anything. Don't just read stories about it. I mean, story I read had me pretty annoyed. And then I listened, and it turned out the story was, it was either badly written or it was well written with the intent to mislead. I'm not sure which. But what Rodriguez had to say was more than what the story indicated. Okay, guys, I am way behind now since I had to redo this, and dang it, I'm going to be checking again to see if we've had more people into the portal. This is just, I thought I was kind of settled down. All righty. Thanks for dropping in. I'll try to be a little more focused when the next batch of news comes out. Thanks a lot, guys.